Welcome to Leuven. The spring invite is well underway here for the European Ultimate Federation 2023 season opening event. And we have a showcase game with all this open ultimate happening across the pitches here. It's going to be some national team friendly action between the women of the Netherlands who've travelled across to the hosts, Belgium. And this is actually their third time of playing each other. Myself, Hannah Pendlebury, in the commentary booth alongside Francis Dieterle. Did I get that right, Francis?
You did.
Oh,
you did.
Magical times. We're off to a great start here. And yeah, this is the third time they've played each of these two teams. How did the other results go, Francis?
So it looks like they've switched both sides. They've traded a game. Talking to Captain Paula Bass before, she says that Belgium won the first game, which she said, quote, was a less serious game. And in the, quote, more serious game, the Netherlands took the results. I'm not sure what the score was for each of those, but it seems like we've got two equally matched teams right here.
Absolutely. It's going to be a good match. We know that both of these teams have very big arms. They like to throw those hucks. I think the focus, slightly more for selection on the Dutch side, was to go for people who were quite young and athletic, lots of talent coming through from the club teams, the likes of Gut, for example. Many of their players that normally run around in the mixed division coming and getting some women's cap for their national side. Of course, two non-player coaches who are running this Dutch squad. And then the Belgians are missing quite a few of their roster, considering this is on home turf, Francis.
Indeed they are. Belgians a little bit less focused on youth, and they're what you would call a true national team. Many players coming from different clubs, Love or Jet Set, Gentle and Mooncatchers, but they have a few people out for injuries, a few people out for personal reasons, so overall about 8 absences on their roster, which makes today's showcase game a little bit smaller roster than you would maybe expect so close to home. But I think that they've still got a lot of their strongest players here today.
Absolutely, and it's always really interesting early season. Certainly keeping the eyes on the prize for Limerick, the European Ultimate Championships that will be happening later this season. And we at ulti.TV will be delighted to bring you that coverage later on this year. But you always see teams not necessarily always wanting to show, especially on a live stream game, what their A game is, what the top part of their playbook looks like. Keeping those strategies a little bit more under wraps. But who knows? Perhaps if you're watching this back on tape, you can send us some love. Send us an email, let us know you're scouting this way. But if you're also joining us live, very big welcome to you. Great to have you here alongside us as we look to get this one underway. Starting on offense will be Belgium in the black shirts. And in the fetching orange boven, I think as the Dutch say, will be coming out for the Netherlands.
And again, Paula Bass told us that the Belgians really love to open up the field with their deep shots. Can look to a lot of backing defense. I think that they're going to really try and limit their shot selection going away from the disc.
So Belgium opening us up here. Good tight match defense from the Netherlands. Hombergen up to Nurse. Maria Castillo. And of course, Silke de la Fortrie on the far side. Iconic Belgian handler. Castillo. Lots of passes being made by the Belgians. High reaching grab for Coquet. Knocking on the doorstep, but a pick call is going to give us a brief pause of play. High one across to Della Forti. Nice around break. Van Uyke. And there you go, punches in the goal to Naomi Knowles. So Esther Van Uyke with the assist on that one. Really nice flow on the break side for the first point for the Belgians.
Eva Maxon punching that one on in the break side to Naomi Knowles.
So an easy opener for the Belgian women's team.
Now, just to give us a little bit of an explanation of what's at stake here, the Belgians finished 5th in Győr, besting the French team for 5th place. And they had a very good squad at that point. Here they're returning about half of their team from Győr with about 11, and also moving some people up from that mixed team where they tend to concentrate their younger talent to focus on the single gender selections. Netherlands, I don't believe, sent a women's team to Győr, and so this will be really their first big games on the international stages.
Oh, I think they'll find they did send a women's team to Győr. I remember watching them from a balcony. What a tournament that was. That anyone that was there will happily remember the results, but perhaps forget the experience of being at that particular tournament complex. My favourite thing was the feature of the random sprinklers that would turn on during the last set of games. Huge hammer over the top from Floor Collarts. Bid comes, but that's going to fall far away from Janne Jansen. High one though, snagged out of the air. Isa Moncau with the grab. Nice one around, Collarts. After that zesty hammer, throws a flat flick. Van der Merlen. Popping it round. Throw and go up the far sideline. Floor Collarts, loads of room, acres even, as the defender poaches and snags closer. And that levels us up, but not cleanly.
Fortunate break for the Belgian defense. It looked like there was a miscommunication between whether they were going to switch on the throw and go with Collarts. I think that switching is probably going to be what you would want to do, especially for really somebody who wants to churn with their legs right there. Collarts has position, and it's just a blown switch on the handler defender backing away from the disc. Collarts has acres of space for that floaty pass and marks her first point of the game.
Yeah, Collarts, one of those household name Dutch players that everyone is very familiar with. Very, very athletic in her early career. Made huge, big defensive blocks. Big pull from Lisa Holrab. Sending it into the depth of the pitch. Nice throw and go, because there's the defender perhaps missing or perhaps poaching off. Is it miscommunication, or is it attempt at playing a bit of Mazeltov? No, Mark D. Slob on the mark. Max on far side. Nice big block. Can she do it twice? Absolutely. Marta Kurlen denying the Belgian goal.
It's a good job rebounding her block right there. The little making sure that she catches the block and corrals it.
Well, that looks like it's going to be a strip from the backside of Silke Della Forti. Immediately accepted. So 0 stall count. Streaking deep players coming back under. Going to need to find something in the form of a reset. Oh, nice work from Ingeborg, but unfortunately cannot keep her hands around it. Kaulars with a drop. And the disc back in Belgian palms. Knowles. Knowles shoots a zesty inside flick, and that is going to be good for goal. So number 6 reeling that in. It's that lovely inside shot after lots of pressure. Naomi Knowles. Or Knowles. Lovely find.
I believe that's Esther van Vink. There's a few double numbers on these teams. Still haven't gotten their full uniforms yet, so they're just making sure that everybody has a national team jersey to play on the pitch today. Belgium did turn it over, but you can see that the reset defense from Castillo was excellent. She's a very explosive player, especially in the backfield. She has good closing speed. She's able to just put enough pressure on the reset to make sure that the throw isn't clear.
So the Netherlands O-line coming out, as O and D lines are the Dutch, with a bit of help from the larger group of defensive players who have turned up here in Leuven, but an opportunity now for Belgium. Nulf with the disc. Hits the sideline, hand going into the mixer from Baldur. Anwar with the reset, huge grab from Julia Harris, extending herself to keep the disc alive. Nice inside flow to Nulf. Anwar now sends it. It's going to be low, but not caught. Great attempt from Sophie Mattis. He was carrying a little bit of an injury into this game. So great to see her still making those bids despite of it, or in spite of it even. But wearing a gentle open shirt.
Boss just checking the disc to make sure that it wasn't talk out on the layout. She's going to accept it.
Big striding pass down the far side. Bone. Actually, that's Moncau. Nice dish back to Janssen. Through and forward. Curlin. Everyone spread mostly vertical, but a great block running through Lindesmet even. Always try and do the American pronunciation, because Lien in mainland Europe is Lien for some reason in the States. Big reaching pass though to absolutely nobody. It's going to give a turnover and the disc back to the Netherlands.
Another thing we didn't mention, Paolo Bas coming to pick up the disc right now, but we've got a couple of inter-team rivalry, both Castillo and Bas playing for Yaka, the French team from Noisy-le-Sec.
Great attempt to redeem that one though. Janssen of Hood fame unable to claw that one in. And again, Belgian possession, an opportunity for a break. Anwar to Harris. Players available up line, going to bring all the defenders into the yard though. And Florkelerts with the block. Interesting choice to take the double cut up line with all those players, making it such a small channel to find your target.
So far the Dutch have been doing a very good job of keeping their heads up, and they're really cramming that open side, making Belgium try and choose something different, which Belgium so far has not done.
Nice bit of vision from Boss with that full cross swing. And then up line. Boss, of course, one of the most dynamic handlers in Europe. Coularts. Offhand backhand. Nice find. But there is pressure on that one. Lay it on from Anwar. Generating the turnover. It's going to be picked up by Maxon. Lovely inside flick across to Anwar, who generated that pressure. And there we go. First break for the Belgians, reeled in, I think, by Harris. See that lovely inside flick again. And Clyde Anwar with an easy toss. So first blood to Belgium, leading 3-1 after starting this game on offense. But these teams seem relatively evenly matched, Francis.
I agree. I would say that athletically they look pretty similar, where maybe a little bit more concentrated at the top on the Dutch side. But I would say that in skill they look, and in athleticism they look pretty equal. I would not be surprised if the Netherlands break back pretty early to respond.
Absolutely, and the last time we saw the national team of the Netherlands at a European Championship was the indoors championship, where they were silver medalists by not very far. The final was perhaps a little bit closer than was deserved, but that's going to be a laser shot backhand, way too far, nowhere near Issa Moncau. But an opportunity again for the Belgians here.
Castillo just blowing by her defense. She's so quick.
Really great movement up that far sideline.
So far both teams are using vertical stack. There's been a little bit of side stack from the Belgians, but sometimes those vert stacks can create a lot of picks with everybody bunched in the center of the field if you don't get really set up well and get good separation.
Great upline play, stumble on the field from a defender in orange, but it all works out just fine for the Dutch women. Clarts shoots into the end zone, double coverage from the Belgian team, and the disc goes, oh my goodness! I really did not think that was going to get caught. That had no right being caught, Francis.
That was excellent awareness, excellent body control.
That was just absolutely bizarre. A throw directly over the back of the head in double coverage.
She bobbles it and she just grabs it right there. That is really good recovery.
Cesar Slob, I am in awe of you. I have no words for that. It's a game of pinball for one, isn't it, really? Well, either way, it'll do.
So far, though, they've been recovering those. They've bobbled one before. They were able to corral it. I don't think that Collarts is going to be super happy with her selection right there. She threw right into double coverage. I think that she'll want to take that one back, put up a cleaner throw next time.
So the poll not quite as good as some of the ones we've seen so far in this game. That one is going to be bricked. No X's on these pitches to mark treasure. But Belgium looking at the prize. Castillo on the far side rips a backhand down the far sideline, collected with ease. Axel van der Velde.
That's just knowing a receiver. Axel van der Velde just accelerates straight past her defense. When Castillo put that up, I did not think that was going to be caught. But van der Velde, showing that she knew better, runs straight in front of her defense, catches an easy goal in stride.
Absolutely, just grinding out that undercut. Defender just trailing off that tiny bit, giving her the window to put that huge biscuit into the end zone. So 3-2 the score. Belgians with the advantage. One break up. But this is still continuing to be a relatively close fought match.
I think the Dutch are not executing their game plan as they wanted necessarily. That deep shot and one other, maybe just coming out a little too easily. I think that they really want to start getting some help defense off the top of that stack. Limit the set plays from the Belgians.
And a nice set play for the Dutch. Clark's coming under, throws a laser back into the end zone, catching under hot pressure. Issa Moncau with the goal. Just how they drew it up, Francis. That one's been inked. So 4 for Belgium, 3 for the Netherlands. As we come out here. Castillo de la Fortry. High arcing one, that's going to be snaffled by the defense. No, it is not. And you can see the frustration there as the disc just sails into the lap of the waiting receiver. Easy pickings for Van Eyck. Van Eyck. So
even though that's a score for Belgium, though, I think that's really what the Netherlands wanted to do. The shot was not great. They had a shot. They had a chance at getting a defense. The Dutch did. And okay, maybe the next time that long shot will fall into their hands.
well, just about 20 minutes into this 70-minute game. So under a third expired. Belgium with the commanding lead 5-3. But of course, starting on offense, they're just that one break up. Nice shot into Moncau in the center. Last time the pool play was all around Colerts to Moncau. Bass with the disc, nice shot from them. Van der Molen. Poached a bit off in the middle space after grinding upfield, marked by Harris closely. Good around. Punch through to Carter. Oh, nice inside release. Moncau, quick backhand to Bus, and they reel in the goal. Easy one on the board for the Netherlands. It took them probably a couple more passes than they would have preferred. That was nice and smooth.
I think that's the cleanest point that we've seen from the Netherlands. They really got everything that they wanted on that point.
They also used pretty much every player on the line. They've had a lot of trying to isolate certain individuals, have the Dutch women, sort of, you know, these pool plays that they're coming out of the blocks with and after stoppages. But actually, I think working in that sort of more organic manner, allowing their connections to develop over the course of the point, might be the way to go.
You know, I think what you said really gets to the heart of the matter, is that if you focus too much on one player, then defenses are going to key in on that. The set play looked like it was going to Collarts. Boss throws a nice inside break to the center of the field where Collarts draws 2 defenders.
And certainly on the O-line for the Dutch, they have so many star players to choose from. Seems a shame for just 1 or 2 of them to hog it. A good re-catch there in the face of Neertje Holmbergen. Nice grab for Knowles. Looks for an inside shot, but goes up line for De La Fautry. Knowles hovering in the break space. Cheeky little pass into the lap for Van der Velde. She's going to put it out of bounds, though. A throw to absolutely no one. That was très bizarre.
Lucky break for the Dutch. I think that the Belgians just were on the wrong foot right there. A little bit.
Well, they were shutting down the options quite nicely and forcing the Belgians to be creative. I think it's probably the credit there.
Definitely. Those inside shots are getting a little bit more tenuous as the wind picks up.
Nice footwork from Sloor, but a bit too high and out in front. Looks like Holrab trying to streak down the far sideline. Switchy action, getting a bit of a bobble on it. Nice hands from the defense. Kuhlen getting the disc back for the Dutch D-line. Can they put this game back on serve? Holrab across. Janssen. Belgium doing a good job of threatening these open unders. Bit of collateral damage. Susanne Slob sailing and sliding out of bounds.
Looks like a foul was called on the mark. De La Fautry got a piece of the thrower's hand right there. Still a very good mark, even if there's the little touch at the end. She manages to seal off that break side throw, which would have been a very nice reset for the Dutch.
Nice one, straight into the breadbasket of Holrab. Janssen streaking up line, replaced quite quickly. But great defense from Belgium, really switching around, changing up the mark to try and contain the Dutch offense. Trying to hold on to their advantage. The sideline noise starting to escalate. Lovely around, exploiting the poach off. Elina Wilhelm left all alone. Now back to Elmborg, but Telke Elmborg is going to throw a little bit of a risky pass and it's batted away. Great defensive pressure, Axel van der Velde. And off she's going to go towards the end zone. Just about running it over the line and into the goal. And the Belgians retain their 1 break lead, inching ever closer to half. The score now 6-4 to Belgium.
You can see how tenacious these Belgian women are. The O-line does not want to get broken. They've really closed down the resets. They put a lot of pressure on the Dutch throwers to make tough decisions. You can see that Knowles, on a couple of those swings, she really backs off. She takes a look behind, she stops the continuation cut, and then she closes in on the thrower, makes sure that the rest of her defense is positioned so they can push them back to the live side.
Well, that's great defense being played by the O-line of Belgium women's team. Perhaps it's going to be a home field advantage here in Leuven. This fellow part of the Low Countries. He may be low in physicality and lack of hills, but very high in ultimate rankings. Oh, great snag out of the air, nearly the overthrow of Jette Baldoel. Van der Merlen, throwing and going. Floor Clertz looking around, elevates high but goes too soon. A rare aerial error from Floor Clertz.
If I'm going to roll the dice, I think most of the time they're coming up Floor on that one, but
fabulous pressure from the defense. Charny Marchand causing
Marchand just had a
mischief.
better read on that.
Harris calling her teammates under. An opportunity here for Belgium to put themselves well in front in this first half. Great attempt, but Clyda Anwar unable to grab it after an early bid from Tenkate. Perhaps caused that little bit of hesitation and confusion. Bos getting us underway. Now rejoining the pack. Oh, and what a great run through, Sophie Mathius. What injury, may I ask? Besting Clertz watching those two match up. It's going to be very fun over the course of this season. We've got a 12-on-12 Moncau matching Nolf. Gets in her head perhaps with that overthrow. It's a half field now for the Dutch women. Bos with some very clean white cleats. Big reaching pass all the way across to Baldoel. Has Janssen available, nice and easy. Handler resets, clearly not the priority for this iteration of Belgian defense. Van der Merlen doesn't make the same mistake again of just trying to route one it to Floor. Baldoel across, Van der Merlen. Oh, that's really nice though. Beautiful separation just on the front line of the end zone. And eventually it is indeed Floor Clertz for the score.
Errant pass from the Belgian D-line. I really liked the way that they were playing defense on Bos earlier in the point though. She started with the disc, but they really pushed her upfield. They forced her to become a cutter. Bos is not slow by any means, but she's definitely more of a danger with the disc in her hands, so I think that they're doing a good job pushing her out.
So as the rain starts to fall from the sky ever harder, the Dutch still have yet to grab that break back and put this game on serve. Belgian women 6-5 over their opponents, looking at their next goal. Knowles to Castillo, and that little bit of extra wet on the rim of the disc, making it slippery, slippery business. Striding over, she's taken off her trackies. It's business time for Elisa Bos. And an immediate pit call. It's going to pause the stall at 0.75, I reckon. Croquet on the force, but slippery discs all round. Bone unable to keep her hands around it.
Just as you saw in one of our earlier games, the sudden change in conditions can really change the way that the game is played.
Well, all good practice for Limerick. Sunny, sunny Limerick. Never rains there. No, it doesn't. Van der Velde rips it to the far side of the pitch, and Castillo with the drop. You can see she's positive energy, but she knows that was not ideal. So another opportunity for the Dutch, but the full stretch of the pitch to go as the elements change.
A little bit of role reversal. Van der Velde trying to shoot it deep to Castillo.
Find you a player who can do both, huh? So Bos bringing it back in. Offhand, backhand over the shoulder of the mark. Well taken. Susanne Slob. Elisa Bos now. Throwing the inside shot. There's a bid from Anna-Marie Born, but unfortunately a bridge too far. Nice put immediately. Norrell's options being looked for, and Knowles collects the goal off the paws of Axel van der Velde.
Knowles throws a high release to van der Velde, and she's rewarded right back with another high release for the score.
Well, the team's throwing themselves around the pitch here. Just the execution of that high release flick is a very tasty throw indeed, but that's a relatively high stall option. And certainly if it was even a touch windier, that just did flobble quite a lot.
I think the mark was even right there. Something to watch out for. These Belgian throwers are quite experienced. I think that across the board you can see that the experience that they have is perhaps coming through a little bit more than the Dutch.
Absolutely, and it's one of those things that when we do see the Belgian club teams for the women's division coming in, turning up to European Championships, they tend to do very well. They're just a tad inconsistent in their appearance. But of course, the Belgian women's programme in general looking to develop that. As we see a Dutch disc sitting and hanging, knocking out the hands of Floor Collarts. That wasn't the prettiest release. Foul going to be called though, just a chance for the two players to chat about it. But I think even if that had been a catch, there would have been questionable in-out calls in terms of whether it was in the end zone or out of bounds.
Jansson's throw didn't come out quite how she wanted it to. I think that that's a justified turnover right there.
So Belgium with the disc. Wolf throwing it into traffic, but it's redeemed in the backspace. Great awareness. Van Eyck, I think, I don't know, they're 66. That's Lien Desmet. Or Desmet. Lovely work again up line. Anwar. Oh, tippled off the fingertips. That little bit of pressure. I think there was a touch from Floor Collarts to knock that one out of contention. But at this distance, it's hard to tell.
Good acceleration at there. Good closing speed.
Yeah, I think that is indeed a block for Floor Collarts. Mouse looking a little bit lost for options, but there we go, into acres of room. So easy to mess those ones up. Jette Bardol. Back to Boss. Squeezing it into the lap of Bardol. And a ripper into the end zone. Floor Collarts have to take a foot off the gas though. That one's going to be far too far. Franke Tenkat just having vision that wasn't quite on.
The Dutch aren't really connecting on the hucks. It seems like even when they have the spacing to put them, they're shooting them too far.
Yeah, separation was there in the deep space, but unfortunately a case of pure thrower error. Moncau not executing her dream vision, but I tell you what, that's dreamy defense from Isa Moncau to get it back.
And the bookends.
Absolutely delightful. And I have to correct myself, it wasn't Moncau who had the turnover before. It was, of course, one of the other Dutch women. But that's a great way to punch in and get us nearly to Galaxy Point here in this first half. But it will be played to 8. And a timeout call.
Janssen somewhat redeeming herself, getting an assist on the board after the turnover on the huck.
And some fans in the little sheltered dugout areas on the far side of the pitch. It started out so beautifully this day in Leuven. We had some picturesque skies to sit behind the wonderful architecture. Such variety in the housing stock around the sports complex here. And we're delighted to be here in Leuven as we see the lack of clean holds generally in this game, considering the points that are currently on the board. Certainly the Dutch seem to be really struggling to execute. Only 6 of their true O-line present here at this friendly game. Pulling someone across from the D-line each time as extra personnel. But of course, when you're lacking that efficiency, Francis, it makes it really hard as an offensive line to continue that grind. You know, as a D-line, your job is to keep your opponents out on the pitch as long as humanly possible, to just grind away at their self-esteem, their ability to run, really just demoralize them essentially. And I think the Belgians are doing a really good job of that, of sort of, you know, shutting down the go-to looks of the Dutch, but of course coming out on offense now with disc in hand. Castillo, who's been having a fantastic game, as one would expect. Slightly late in the stall option, but taken to Maxon. Going up line, that's going to be a bridge too far though. There's no bid coming out of Yvan Maxon. Actually, no, that's Fleming Croquet. So can the Dutch bring us to Galaxy Point? And back on serve. Lisa Gorab looking for options. Moncau found far side. Shooting up line, squeaking it to Curlin. Van der Molen was quite poached off. He's going to go and get acres of space up line though. Casual, almost. Justina Van der Molen, the experienced player, was on that silver medal winning indoor championship team back in December of last year, and she's going to throw a goal at long last, a connection with Floor Colerts. We've been missing it, and that is a break for the Dutch for some Galaxy Point action. And for those of you who have yet to be inducted into Galaxy Point Club, it's in contrast to Universe Point, as we sometimes call the last sudden death point of a game, Galaxy Point is the point, if you're level, to take half. Because it's all part of it. It's all part of the sports psychology of how you win games.
Casual grab from Colarts right there.
Well, she had so much
all
separation.
The time in the world to grab that one.
So back on serve. Elisa Bos with the pull. And quite a pretty pull it is to Noors. Silke de la Fortrie. Such a calm and considered handler. Finding Holmbergen. Castillo rips a big, ambitious backhand. Great run down underneath it, but can't quite connect.
Seems like they haven't been clicking quite as much. This Belgian offense is normally quite stable, but it seems like they've lost a little bit of the, I don't know, tenacity or just clarity of vision that they had before that was keeping them in the game.
I think they're taking interestingly adventurous shots, which they don't really need to at this stage in the game. Whereas earlier in the game, they were just seemed to be, you know, timing on taking more high percentage passes. Van der Molen doesn't like the look of the separation downfield, wants to play conservative, knows how much this point could mean.
Excellent switch downfield.
And a fantastic block, streaking through at half pitch. Hornbergen generating a turn. Knowles bringing it back in play. Bit of a clump of players in the centre field, not really much in this way of cuts emerging. Great defence from the Dutch, and their throw is going to hit the floor.
As well as Knowles has been playing this game, she's also had a few throwaways that are somewhat baffling for a player of her experience.
Well, Van der Meulen hitting Curlin, far side. Bors now. Lovely inside shot. The Dutch just playing along those far sidelines. That's going to be tasty footwork required, and it's delivered. Bors needs to either commit or clear, commits instead. All of the Dutch players really far away from the disc, making it a hard ask. And Justina van der Meulen cannot redeem that disc that pings off the fingertips of Isa Moonkau. Oh no, that's not Isa Moonkau, that's Susanna Slob. And again, a big backhand that's going to overreach for Team Belgium.
It's the second crossfield backhand from Castillo on this point. I think that she's got an excellent arm right there. She just needs to float it out a little bit more, give her receiver more of a chance.
Well, the wind condition has changed from earlier on today. We did have a bit of breeze that could kind of keep those City hangy discs stuck for a couple of extra seconds, but it is about as still as it gets for an outdoor game right now. Just that rain drizzling down, making the disc slippery and hard to catch. Great expansiveness from the Dutch, keeping their spread across. Belgium trying to cause confusion, sort of sagging off and switching among the hand set. I like it.
I like it too. I think they realize that some of the inexperienced throwers on the Netherlands side, they're a little bit more likely to give away the disc if there's more confusion, especially in that center.
Great striding through from Verle Janssen. Just committing, finds Bors. Takes the player in double coverage, but that is a beautiful flick. And the Dutch take half with a break. Well, that is absolutely fantastic throwing form. With the the double coverage on Elina Wilhelm, I was a bit confused to see that shot go from Bos.
I don't really have much to say. I'm confused by it as well, but I would have expected a Belgian hand in there.
But either way,
looks like the Dutch have adjusted very well, though. I think that they were down. They realized that what they needed to do was execute their game plan and limit those deep shots. 2 deep turnovers by Castillo on this 1 point. And I think that they're really firing. The Dutch are figuring out what they want to do, and they're executing.
Absolutely, and there seems to be just a smidgen more patience in the Dutch play in the second stage of the first half. It's just that rather than relying on a set play that involves particular athletes, just reeling through the options a bit more, you know, going through the whole Rolodex of availability. But still very much all to play for. As the Dutch take half by the skin of their teeth. So now coming out on offense again. See if they can do the double to really cement it. It's a one straight out the blocks. Isa Moonkau is the intended target, but again, those set pieces not quite working in the midsection of this game for the Belgians. Julia Harris with a huge clap catch layout. You can see she was preparing herself for the contact. That's a big old bash, and a foul going to be called immediately, I think fairly rightly, by Qaida Anwar.
Going back to the Dutch hug, I think that Boss Schroeder, they have all the tools to put that a little bit further. Especially for the keystone of your offense, you want them to perform at the top of their abilities.
Yeah, and that play from the defensive effort from Bardot. She did get in front, but just not by enough to avoid the contact. Pick in the stack, though. It's going to give us a brief repose.
Little false start right there. Violation called on the field.
Still count rising. Harris threads the needle into the inside. And then receives the reset. Maxon lasers it through to Desmet, who's going to throw quite the zesty option towards the end zone. Shawnee Marchand, I think, did have space to receive the disc, but it just wasn't quite the execution needed to connect.
Always frustrating as an offense, well, a defensive offense, when you manage to chain together some breaks like that and you lose it on the last pass. Harris was really ripping Boss's mark apart. She was throwing those really incisive insides to the front of the stack. It's a nice battle between the two of them.
Absolutely, two elite quality players. Boss for Yaka and Harris previously for Cusp Shout. Although I think she played with them at European Championships last season. In fact, I'm fairly certain of it. She was definitely there, as we always delight to see. So Qaida Anwar going to open one up to this near side. Leen Desmet through to Sophie Matches. Tight footwork window for Maxon. Harris now surveying the options. That's going to be a very clean D indeed for Justina van der Meulen.
I don't think Anwar had the separation that Harris thought. That first step, it looks like she's got something, but the defender really closes the gap quite well.
This is beautiful break side play from the Dutch. Oh, and that is a lovely backhand into the deep space and easily collected. Issa Moncau, at long last, after quite the grind, the Dutch put their first offensive hold in for the second half and extend their lead 9-7. Absolutely zero mark, with the defender having committed downfield. That is probably one of the finest executions I think we might have seen out of this Dutch women's side so far this game on that throw, which is good because you wouldn't want it to be a bad execution if you don't have any mark to contend with. But also not that frustration thing of, I have the separation, therefore I must throw the throw. So good composure and a well-earned break. So Lisa Rohrab with the pole for the Dutch as they look to extend their lead against the Belgian side. Delefautre at the back alongside Naomi Noos. Beautiful visionary shot across the top against the Dutch zone, but they're now pulling out to try and confuse the options in space. Melt to match likely this close to the end zone. Holmbergen into Delefautre, and indeed they've melted to a match defense option. Knowles. Popping across to De La Fortry. This is good containment defense from the Dutch. Carola's a step behind Van Eyck. Trying to separate players one by one. Knowles going to go deep into the end zone. Bosch trying to play some help, but absolutely rinsed with Carolars. And an easy goal for the Belgians. They put one in the bank to keep themselves breathing down the neck of the Dutch women.
Knowles put a really nice shot up there.
Offense! Did you bring your thongs?
Knowles has found her rhythm, I think, as a thrower. Again, she put that into a very small window.
So the ball sailing out of bounds just over half field. Barca's going to bring it to the brick mark. Wearing some suspiciously non-frisbee shorts, it has to be said. It's not very frizz, is it?
They've got pockets, though.
I know, it's not very frizz.
First zone look from the Belgians, I believe.
Indeed, taking a leaf out of the Dutch book, because we saw that come out in the previous point. Trying to confuse the options, make the defense think. But there is pretty much zero wind, and all of these players on both sides of the disc have creative shots that they can take.
I feel like this wall zone has become more popular in the past couple of years. It really slows down offenses.
Well, surely they can't be that tired. They're only playing the showcase game, not a full tournament, but that is a nice bit of clean offense from the Dutch. Punching it in.
Dutch make short work of that one. I think that if the Belgians put that one out, they're going to want to make a few adjustments. Maybe they'll want to force it to one sideline and melt into their match D earlier.
Well, the Dutch have brought a couple more personnel on board for this matchup, this friendly. And perhaps that's showing a little bit there. We saw a lot of hand in the pockets defense from both sides at the beginning of this game, but that one seemed a little bit more off. Obviously playing that zone, maybe the transition wasn't quite strong enough, but that disc from Van der Meulen for the goal was quite low, and there wasn't really anybody putting the additional pressure on Franca Tenkate as she brought that one in. But trading out this second half so far, the Dutch with, of course, that break advantage over the Belgians. And it's a Dutch zone for the Belgians to have to now contend against. De La Fortry just keeping relatively flat. The handler's not really looking to be too aggressive and gain yards off these big poachers, even though they possibly could, by just pushing through a little bit. And that one is a bit more aggressive, just tempting Elina Wilhelm to try and make a bid. But at this stage in the game, still plenty of time left on the clock to run. The Belgians can afford to be conservative, I was about to say, as Naomi Knowles throws a high one that's picked off, and that's a beautiful put straight to go. Do not collect €200, just grab yourself another point on the board, and the Dutch expand their lead with a break, 11-8.
Great shot in transition. I think that the Belgians really took an unneeded shot through the cup there. I think that Knowles wanted to be aggressive in the center of the field. It's just picked off very easily by Lisa Volraab there.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, because I was literally in my head thinking about how the fact that they've got plenty of time left on the clock, so actually they can just take those swing options, just basically nibble away at the distance between them and the goal line, and then when the melt happens and the transition happens, use the chaos to find the holes and bish bash bosh. And then we go and throw one sort of a relatively low, relatively flat disc straight over the wall, which generally ill-advised option at the best of times.
Yeah. We talked about it earlier in one of our games, but there's a few ways to break a zone. There's around, through, over, and in being the crash. And it looked like Knowles wanted to go over right there when it wasn't necessary. A type of flat zone like that you can swing for days. You can just go around the cup by stretching the field back and forth.
Well, something has gotten into the Dutch women. They have a little bit of extra orange zest, perhaps some wedges on the sideline have been consumed. A snack, I think, should become more popular in Frisbee. The orange segment. But De La Fortrie, unfortunately, makes the grab on the slide, but the disc gets contact with her knee and just pops out of her hands like a piece of toast. Bus. Oh, a little bit of a clatter there from Castillo. Bit unnecessary. Just grabbing the shoulder of Telke Emborg as she runs through. Tight pressure. High one's going to sail way over the top and be collected calmly by Esther van Wijk. Knowles into De La Fortrie. Nobody streaking deep when Silke De La Fortrie had the disc in her hands, which is a shame. Castillo hanging out in the backspace though, sort of threatening. That one's a little bit too high though. There's a stumble as she turns around, makes a spin move to try and keep possession. Nadja Hombergen.
Those inside breaks seem to be a really fundamental part of this Belgian offense, and with a wet disc and with the way that things are going, they're just not connecting as much on them. Little Oyo right there. Now that defense from Knowles, she keeps on backing up off of Boss when Boss gets the swing. If I'm Boss, I really would want to let Knowles back off a little bit, cut off something from the break side, and then move with my legs. Just move that disc and attack as soon as I can into that space.
Bone. Looking a little bit lost for options, goes for a high stall, high release. Escape hatch to Boss, and there's a nice setup. Tekla Emborg on the far sideline, and that is 12-8 now to the women of the Netherlands.
What an excellent move from Boss. That little hesitation step that throws Knowles off balance and allows their thrower to sort of put it into space behind the defense. It's Monkau right there. Boss with all the time in the world, and they just throw perfectly weighted pass into the end zone.
So Tekla Emborg reeling in the goal off of Boss. I believe that's is Emborg's first stat of this game. One of the newer faces on the Dutch women's side. But a Belgian comeback could well be on the cards. They have shown, especially in the early stages of this game, the quality of ultimate they are capable of producing. And some double duty now being pulled across. I think the D-line's come out for an O point after those 2 breaks in a row for their offense. Desme, centered.
Little force middle right here, trying to combat the vert stack.
Harris puts one out to space, but there's a bit of hesitation. Silkenolf, I think, thought that that might have been for somebody else rather than her task to try and run down. Holrab pops back. Janssen. In fact, both Janssen sisters on here. Holrab, little stutter step, an easy pass. Where was the defense, I ask? 13-8 now the score. Netherlands expanding to 5-point lead over the Belgian hosts. Great redemption on that slightly strangely thrown disc to Glider Anwar. He's been putting in a shift all game long. But just a cluster of orange shirts running in unison, like synchronized swimming almost.
Belgium's really lost their rhythm. I don't know exactly what it is that caused them to lose their mojo, but it seems like the Netherlands have really taken them out of that big ball game. And, you know, after a few points in the first half where it looked like Belgium might have found a really good sort of style and stuck with it, it seems like the Netherlands have made them second guess a lot of their normal decisions.
Well, they've had a couple of points where it just hasn't been on the money, where there's been a decent amount of turns on a repeated basis. And I think that's given them a little bit of the fear. Hopefully they can find some hope and confidence back in themselves. Axel van der Velde has certainly been a confident player all game long. Hornbergen. Big reset across to Castillo. Oh, and a laser of a backhand. Van der Velde is open, but unfortunately the overthrow, and that's what we're talking about, those executions just a bit off balance.
I think it's time to start discussing whether Maria Castillo should lay off the weights.
A bit more shape, same power, more shape. Or I did once play on a club team where our best shooter, as it were, she had to wait for 3 seconds before she was allowed to throw any huck.
Sorry about the technical difficulties. We are back here in Leuven, bringing you the showcase game between the Belgian women and the Dutch women. Hannah, what happened during our short electrical outage?
Indeed, we have too much power here at the fields. Had a bit of a surge, had to go reset some fuses. It was all happening, and it's all been happening on the pitch. The Belgian women are making a bit of a shot at a comeback. The Dutch only have to punch in one more goal to completely seal this victory over Belgium. However, they've had something to say about that. There was an opportunity where we thought it was going to be game, got pulled back on a travel call for the Dutch women. Since then, it's been blocks all over the shop. And we unfortunately, I think, missed an absolutely no concern for her own body bid from Julia Harris to try and reel in a goal on the far side. Just a little bit out of bounds, but Belgium just 4 points behind the Netherlands in this friendly match. So mostly pride at stake, but the Dutch are looking a little bit like they did in the midsection in the first half. Not really executing, sort of throwing things away. Set piece coming out of the blocks. Kalertz going to the deep space, but not going to be hit. Bardul shoots forward. Kalertz. There's somebody poached because there was double coverage in the end zone. Hammer over the top to Bos. Sorry, Bardul even. 2 threes, not 1. Ten Carter. Has Van der Meulen coming underneath. Moncal just trying to be there, but a burst through finally closes this game out 15-10 to the Netherlands with a nice upline cut from Franke Ten Carter. So that will wrap us up for this wonderful showcase game in the slightly drizzly conditions. Not much wind to speak of. So in contrast to Limerick, where there's almost guaranteed to be rain, but certainly going to be a lot more blustery than it's been in Leuven here today. Conditions are, good preparation. What are your final thoughts on this game, Francis?
My final thoughts are that the Dutch really used their athleticism quite well. I think that they clearly showed that they're a very fit team despite some of the inexperience from some of their throwers. Belgian women, perhaps because of absences, perhaps just because they couldn't hang, didn't manage to stay in it for the entire game. Even for a short-handed squad, though, I would have expected them to put up a few more points. I think that they won't be satisfied with this result, and, well, the Dutch, they shouldn't expect the same team in Limerick either. Both teams have a long way to go. They'll improve on both sides.
Absolutely. Well, that's going to wrap us up. A couple of highlights of this game, but obviously we'll be clipping those and bringing them to you later on today as well. But that's going to bring an end to the women's division action this weekend. Thank you very much to both these teams for letting us live stream your action. But we'll be going back into the proper standings here at the Spring Invite for Leuven. Join us for the next game between Bora and Revolutionaire. More Pool C action here for you. We'll see you on the other side.
ulti.TV